I'm Ashton Addison from EventChain for InvestmentPitch Media and the Crypto Coin Show. And today on Blockchain Interviews, we have Tim Shea, the founder and CEO of Undercurrent. Tim, welcome to the show, and thanks for taking the time to be here today.
Ashton, thanks so much for having us. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, I'm really interested in Undercurrent Army and the specific NFTs that your team's working on right now, something I have not seen across the space at all yet. And this is really cool. And you're tying it all together with some interesting initiatives that are giving back as well. I would love for you to kick it off to the audience with just an overview of what is Undercurrent Army, how did you get this idea, and what are the solutions that your team is bringing?
Yeah, 100%. Thanks again for having us. My name is Tim Shea. I'm the founder of the Undercurrent Army collective. I'm also the founder and CEO of a company called Latticework Insights, which is what Undercurrent ladders up to. We focus on things like, data integration, data visualization, as well as data storytelling. I also have a background as a creator, executive producer under a brand called 9/7 Entertainment, where we're making, independent feature films. And then there's a live art collective that we have here in Los Angeles called Live Action Art. So the genesis of Undercurrent is that, we saw this, NFT space emerging, and we were very intrigued, right? This is, it enables creators to have a direct relationship with their fans or a direct relationship with their customers. But there's a big problem. And the problem we saw is that a lot of the NFT, cryptocurrency, blockchain stuff, it siphons attention away from this physical world. It's a very cerebral, kind of heady space. And then furthermore, it siphons resources away from the physical world. It's in fact damaging to the physical world. So obviously lots of literature about, the electricity footprint, the amount of electricity that it takes to keep a blockchain running. And there's a problem there. So we wanted to flip the script on that. We wanted to use an NFT project we recognize them as a unit of attention, and we wanted to siphon that attention back to the physical world, tell stories about, this planet that we're living on, as well as redirect this, newfound wealth that this community is experiencing, redirect a lot of that wealth and resources back to climate action, organizations and resources and so forth. So Undercurrent is it's a trend. Undercurrent is a blueprint for NFT and blockchain technologies to adopt, to use the sort of viral mechanics that are built into the products, as well as setting a standard for giving back, for offsetting the impact that these projects have on the climate.
Yeah, that's a great intro, Tim. And you said it best, we're sort of taking away from the real world. And the way that you've designed this first set of NFTs in Undercurrent it's really a great snapshot of the world and really brings you back and educates you about how the world is working right now. And I would love for you to just explain the current set of NFTs, the first set that you've released here, and what exactly they're symbolizing, and why are they so limited and rare edition?
Cool. No, that's a good question. We wanted to have a voice in this movement. We made a decision early on to come in as a creator as opposed to a speculator, although we recognize that those things are somewhat intertwined. And so we thought, what are the skills that we could bring to this universe that could make something cool? So we know, data visualization, data integration, technology providers, right? Builders of technology was going to be our core skill set. We certainly saw a lot of the NFT activity as trolling. There's a lot of trolling, right? I think the idea that you would buy some of these, Jack Dorsey's first tweet and a whole long tail of other NFTs that popped up are gimmicks. They're gimmicks in a way. We also saw that there was an oversupply of a certain sort of genre of NFTs. A lot of people would just tend to refer to them as just motion graphics. So the motion graphics people, I think, are having a bit of a renaissance right now. An astronaut flying through a building with flowers everywhere. It's just that's the style. And certainly lots of junk. I think anyone in the world can go on Rarible and so forth and see just lots of junk that's out there. And so the CryptoPunks and Autoglyphs projects for me, really kind of grounded that conversation. I instantly recognized that, in 20 years' time, CryptoPunks are going to be hanging in the MoMA, next to Jean-Michel Basquiat paintings and Mark Rothko paintings, Jackson Pollock's and so forth. And, in fact, like Banksy, who was kind of like the original prank artist or publicity stunt artist. In many ways, NFTs have stolen that mantle from him, right? And it's just like they're quite good at grabbing attention. So we knew we wanted to approach this from a fine art perspective, but we knew that it was an NFT at the end of the day. This is an attention, a unit of attention that we're producing. So Wavelength NFT was the first project that we created. It tells the story of this grand, choreography that's happening on the Earth. It answers the question, what is the frequency of the ocean? I mean, there's 1,300 buoys floating in the ocean. They take these 20-minute samples and they send the samples to space. There's the one of 17 satellites that are orbiting the Earth. Those signals are relayed back to Wallops Island, Virginia, where NASA is. They collect and clean and archive all this data and send it back out to the National Weather Service for a whole variety of uses. And they allow it for you to download it. We pull it in through an API. We pulled it through a Python algorithm that we developed that tells the story of the unique fingerprint of the top 20 surf breaks in the United States. In many cases, this is like, 10, 20, 30 years worth of wave data. This is what kind of makes them unique, is that there is no other break just like this, each of the individual ones. So we built them. It was quite a technological challenge to pull off. We listed them on OpenSea, which we found to be a great partner in this. They're each listed for 1 ETH, and we give back 10% of the profits for each NFT and make a donation in the buyer's name to Heal the Bay, which is a great climate charity here in Southern California. So that's the story of Wavelength NFT.
Wow, that's great, Tim. And I really like how you're trying to tie it into a more elegant form of art, the fine art. It definitely does seem quite memey on the on the crypto Twitter, where you're seeing influencers just post animated GIFs, and you're like, well, where's the artist that these Renaissance artists and these like Mona Lisas eventually are going to be able to get onto the blockchain and actually, move the actual art industry onto the blockchain, right?
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
To have a picture that actually has a lot of value, either from the artist or through itself, I think, they say a picture is worth 1,000 words, and obviously these Wavelength NFTs have a lot of information in the frequency snapshot that you're taking.
That's right. That's right.
So it's pretty cool, and it's really interesting how you have different buoys throughout the world, and you're taking a snapshot, and you're also trying to bring awareness to climate change and just how the world is changing right now. And I'm curious, with this amount of information and looking at this snapshot, let's just say that these NFTs are on the blockchain for years, decades to come, as they can be there forever. If you look back, would you see the ocean changing, or would the snapshot be completely different if you took it 20 years from now or 50 years from now?
It would. I think I hadn't thought about this particular thing when we were building them, showing the effects of climate change. We were thinking more of like, a lot of these breaks, let's say for surfers, have a sort of sentimental value, a lot of memories tied up in riding some of these breaks. But certainly it is a data visualization exercise as well. And you can see the sort of seasonal patterns. Each line on the pieces represents 1 month of wave telemetry data. In some cases, you can see, the seasonality, summer to winter, the patterns of those waves change. The sort of larger lines on the right-hand side of the x-axis represent larger and larger waves. So you see ones on the left-hand side, they're 0, 1, 2 meters high. And as they get out towards the right-hand side, these are waves that are, 5, 10, 15 meters high, 10, 20, 30 feet high. These are massive waves that they're displaying. And so, global warming and specifically climate change, I mean, that is the thesis, that there is some areas are getting hotter, some areas are getting colder, and that storms are getting more intense. And you'll see the effects of this in some cases where, let's say, we've got a great one from Alaska, we've got one from Montauk in Long Island, one off the coast of Oregon. Those breaks in the northern parts of the globe are rougher. There's more storms. There's a lot more activity going on versus, let's say, Southern California, where it's a little bit more placid, a little bit more consistent. And certainly if you saw major aberrations in those patterns, places that are close to sea level, like Florida, are going to see lots of problems emerging. You don't want to see a 20-foot wave off the coast of Miami. It could be sort of catastrophic. And so I think it's a good point that you bring up, that you might be able to closely monitor the effects of climate change with the pieces themselves.
Definitely. I think that's really cool. And what I find it interesting is these wavelengths, it's a very niche, not a lot of people think about this type of art. It's a very special type of art. And putting on NFTs brings a special type of crowd as well. And I'm curious if your team thought ahead of who were the people that might be interested in this, whether it's crypto investors, fine art investors, surfers, people that study the waves. It seems like it could be attracted to a bunch of different crowds.
It's a good question. We've had the question too, like, where did you get the inspiration for this? And we knew the story, like we knew what we wanted to do, but how we had the inspiration is a bit of a mystery, I think. But I will tell you this: once we found the idea, you just become obsessed with it. You become obsessed. You sort of live in your brain. You live on these buoys, 10, 50, hundreds of miles out into the ocean. So we think that there's a lot of, data geeks that are interested in this. We think that there's definitely a fine art community of folks that are thinking about, art hanging in their living room. We know that the data visualization community will react well to these. I will say in a year's time when we look back, this will win the data visualization award. I think it's a very cool project that if I saw this from the outside, I would be very drawn to. Certainly surfers, that the surf community is very closely tied with the, the climate community, that these individual breaks have sentimental value to them. So anyone from any of these disciplines who are interested in owning a piece of unique breathtaking art and having making a donation to climate action organizations in their name, we're very interested in working with them. So we did this in the context of Earth Day, and we say, listen, no reasonable offer, no reasonable bid on the pieces will be refused. So we would love to sell the whole collection and look back and say, we've already donated hundreds of dollars to Heal the Bay, and we hope that number is astronomical. We'd love to look back and say, we made a measurable impact.
Definitely, and I think it's great to release them on Earth Day. And just remind me again, you mentioned there's 20 different buoys that have 20 unique art pieces, and those are on OpenSea right now?
That's correct. Yeah.
And is your team planning on doing further tranches or different projects? If this sells out right away, is there anything else in the works that you have, more buoys or something else?
Sure. I think first off, we definitely have seen a lot of inbound interest in the project, both from people that are interested in making other variations of it, and then also, traditional advertising agencies, brands, publishers that are trying to figure this stuff out for themselves. So we've seen a lot of stuff come in that way, but certainly we've talked a little bit about commissioning specific breaks. There's some that are gorgeous. I mean, there's some that were very difficult to get data for. Biarritz in France is a legendary surf break. There's a buoy about 70 miles off the coast of France, and we just couldn't find the data. It's just like we're in the Spanish climate website, like 11 clicks deep, trying to find the stuff. There's one off the coast of in Ireland, so off the coast of Galway. So there's a maybe unsurprisingly, a really dedicated, pretty gangster crew of surfers that surf in pretty cold water with some pretty gnarly rocks and cliffs that they're coming up against. And so those are hard to get. Fiji, Tahiti. There's buoys, like I said, 200 miles off the coast of some of these places, and some of them are not managed by the NOAA in the US. So we're definitely keen to react to see what the market comes in asking for, but certainly we're also interested in the sort of broader application of how can we use this Undercurrent blueprint to help other folks roll out similar projects in the future.
Definitely. And I think it's so interesting to have the buoys in all different countries and different oceans throughout the world. And it just attracts, like, say you're in Europe, there might be one right nearby you that it's like, oh, wow, there's like, this is where I live. So super cool. And we're running sort of short on time, Tim, but
Sure.
For the viewers that are interested in learning more about these art pieces and picking them up and following your project as you release more, what's the best way for them to get involved?
Certainly. They can visit us on our site. The site is called undercurrent.army. We were very excited to get that top level domain. They can see us on Instagram at Undercurrent Army. We're listed on OpenSea under Wavelength NFT, and we're certainly interested in collaborating with folks that are interested in poking around in this industry. We recognize that NFTs are a sort of new form of e-commerce. It's a new form of engaging with brands. Building a brand in 2021 is hard work. We know that there's data living in for an average brand has their data living between 10 and 30 different databases. And we know that the blockchain and NFT space, it really only has, it's like, 5% of the technology that's needed to support modern commerce, modern marketing and attribution, modern rights management, and copyright. And so, we're interested in making an impact there, and we're interested in collaborating with other folks in the space that want to move the sort of, blockchain technology forward to so it can capture all of the promise that it holds.
I completely agree, and all the best moving forward with the project. I will leave those links in the description box below as well for the viewers, so they can take a look at Undercurrent Army's site and on OpenSea. And let's follow up in the near future. I'm excited to see where this goes.
Excellent. Ashton, thank you so much for having us on the show. Really appreciate it.